fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. How my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is a fantastic episode because aboard the mothership is David Sancious. You know him as a member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band and as the frontman of Tone. Now he will appear at an evening with David Sancious at the Vogel. Now come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Sancious. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Totally an honor, sir. I really enjoy your music, so I look forward to talking with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So I always start off with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for music and who are your earliest influences?
What inspired my love for music was basically just hearing it. I was subjected to a lot of different musical styles, sort of all at once. I'm the youngest member of a family of five. And yeah, I mean, music itself is what inspired me, I have to say. And it's just like magic to me. I mean, to this day, I don't. Frank Zappa said a funny thing. He said, what did he say? Talking about music is like dancing about basketball or something like that. I don't have to quote right, but just to put it in context, it's something so magical and so otherworldly in a way that the mind can't really, whatever words we can come up with to try and describe music or to try and describe the experience of it, it always falls short. Yeah.
Now, would you say you're naturally musical, or it was just your passion for it that have made you, obviously the great success that you've become?
Well, I'm not unnaturally musical. That's a funny, interesting term. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I guess I have some natural affinity for it, and I think a lot of, especially in the early days, I got a lot of confidence because maybe I was too young and too naive and too in love with the experience to sort of know that, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, or maybe that's not for you, So whatever I was attracted to, I just went with it. And by the time I was so far down, for instance, I was born in 1953, okay? And in that time, I remember my mother and I used to watch a lot of music together on television. Anytime there was a classical piano concert, we would, have a look at it. But there were not like lots of people of color playing classical music. There just weren't at that time, especially on the level of a recital pianist. And I was about maybe 6 or 7, and into like my second year of studying classical piano with a virtuoso pianist. And I remember one time it was the kids my own age in my own school sort of system. And they made a funny remark. It's just like, oh, what are you doing with that music? And I was like, wow. But I was already so deeply into it that it didn't make me feel bad, like there was something wrong with me. It made me feel sort of not sorry for, but realize that, like, well, there's nothing wrong with me, but you don't know what you're missing. Because people get adopted into these attitudes, this music is for these people and this music is not for these people, that kind of stuff. But again, I think my own naivete and the fact that I was propelled so far by the love for it itself, that when I sort of got the idea that, like, oh, some people have a problem with this, that I was past that. It had no negative effect on my psyche or my energy at all.
Now, I read in your bio that when you grew up, your house was filled with a variety of music from Mozart to James Brown. Now, that's a great variety of music. So how did that range of music help develop you and your idea and sound of what music could be?
And that's the truth. I mean, my house, depending on who was up first and who was out of the door first, it might be what music you heard first or last. But I got to say, on work days, my dad worked for the government all his life. He was an electronics engineer, and he helped develop and guide missile systems during the Cold War period. That was his gig. And my mom was a school teacher. Now, I always remember my father was out on a work day, Monday through Friday. My father was out the door first because he had farther to drive to get to his job. My mother was out second, right? And then the kids me and my two older brothers, we were out third, and we were supposed to be responsible enough to get ourselves to school, to walk to the school bus, actually get on the bus and actually get into school. A lot of times I didn't do that. I didn't do part three of that equation. Yeah. My mom and dad are out. I'm dressed and ready to go to school. But some days, um, I might have made it to the bus, but I didn't actually make it to the school. Whole other situation. I want to say this. My experience with school is not something that I would suggest to anyone else. It came along in a whole different era socially than we're experiencing now. And I highly recommend for anyone to get an education, find out what works for you, find what you're interested in, and educate yourself and find resources, because there's nothing like it. And even though my own grammar school and high school careers were sort of tainted by my own reticence to be involved in it, I had the good fortune to be raised by a school teacher. I was raised by a woman who taught school for her entire life. She dedicated her whole life to educating other people from the age of 19, with her first teaching post in Daytona Beach, Florida, to when she retired as a guidance counselor in Neptune, New Jersey. So, it worked out for me. And again, you don't always have to be perfect in these things to get somewhere with, whether it's music or art or literature or whatever your field is of expression that you want to get somewhere with. The key to getting anywhere with it is that you have to stay in it. You can't pick it up and drop it. You can't be wishy-washy about it. If you're going to do it, really do it, and be ready to sustain yourself, if not financially, emotionally and physically, through a challenging time, because you're going to have periods where, man, it's working, work is coming, money's fine, and then it'll like drop off, and where there'll be periods where there isn't so much work, and you got to be very careful about money or whatever. But then it's like a sine wave. It has these peaks and then it has these troughs and valleys, but what it isn't is some static monodynamic situation. And if you want to get anywhere with it, you have to keep showing up every day. On the day that the phone rang and you got a great gig, oh really, so and so wants me to play with, who, really? Yeah, I'm there, I'm in. Those are great days. And then there'll be days where the phone's not ringing at all and you're left to sort of try and create things, or find out other things. But all of that whole dynamic is what it is. It's the fabric of being an artist. And what it isn't for a lot of people, it's not a 9 to 5 guaranteed salary every week situation. You'll make, I have a lot of affinity for actors, actually. I think the life of an actor is very similar to the life of a working musician, for someone who does like recording sessions and albums, and maybe does their own thing as well. Because you get a phone call and you get hired to do a project, whether it's a tour with, Sting or Eric Clapton or Peter Gabriel or whatever. If it's a film with Steven Spielberg, or some other great Quentin Tarantino or some other great director, you're hired for a specific amount of time, and your contract is worked out, right? So if you get a tour with some big name, that's a phone call to your attorneys, and you work out how much you're being paid for that amount of time. The tour is 6 months, you get your salary, boom, and it comes in. Once you get on that plane, you're paid automatically. It just stays jamming into your account. You can call up on the phone and check. Yes, it's Friday's payday. Yep, it's there. Actors are, as I understand it, it's like that. They work out a sort of payment system where they're paid a portion before they start, and once the project gets rolling, you're paid sort of. I understand it to be similar. I'm sure there's special situations, but once that project is done, okay, you're home now from your wonderful project, your great film you did with a famous musician, famous director. Well, that's it. You don't, that Monday after you get home, you don't have a project. So you're relying on that salary, that fabulous salary you just made. And believe me, it can carry you pretty far. Carry for a while. Well, you know what? The phone's not ringing. I don't need it to ring right now. Everything's fine. You know, we have more than enough to deal with our finances, and you can be home and enjoy time with your family and all that kind of situation until it kicks in. But again, I'm just saying that to say those are kind of peak times, and then you have to sort of be careful and be ready, and don't be too psychically bothered by, if it gets a little bit of a lull in there. But the thing that keeps you not bothered by it is the love for it itself. Because it's not an equation. None of this is like a math equation. It's just something that you really, really love and want to be involved in. And it's the energy of it itself that makes you want to get up and practice more. Or I mean, I have so many things musically. I heard some music that, like, my God, it's beautiful, but I don't know how to play that. I don't know exactly what that is, but I want to know.
Hmm.
I just want to know, and eventually I will know. I heard my older brother turned me on to some music this summer that just blew my mind. And it's things like that, along with other pieces. There's still pieces of classical music that I always enjoyed but never personally played. And there's still time for me to just, well, carve out some time, sit down and learn that piece by Chopin that you always, heard or enjoyed, but that wasn't one of the pieces you were working on. And again, I think that's the beauty of it as well. And I also have a lot of kinship with authors, excuse me, people who work in literature all their life. I find that musicians, actors, and authors have a very similar kind of dynamic in their work lives, and in between. But that's the beauty of it. You're free to reinvent yourself. Maybe that's not a good way to put it. I'm not reinventing myself. You're free to carry on, and you're free to turn down any street you choose to jump on any stream that is of interest to you, and get in your boat and just go down there and see what it is. You're always free to take a new path. You're not artistically stuck, you know?
So I think I found it really interesting what you were saying about I think you said your brother turned you on to some new music that you found fascinating.
Yeah.
How, I mean, does it help you to listen to a wide range of music? Do you find that some musicians are stuck in only what they kind of music that they do, and they're not branching out the way that maybe you do? And how is that benefiting you as a musician?
Well, everybody is their own person. It's not up for me to say where somebody should be at in their musical development, or say what they should be listening to. It's just part of the fabric, you know? And sometimes you have to go, I know with myself, I've tried some ideas, a lot. I've had a lot of success with conceptually some ideas that I've wanted to express. A lot of it has worked out, like sort of first effort. Some of it hasn't. Some of it's taken. I have some projects I wanted to do. It took like 2-3 years for it to coalesce and to find the right group of people or person to work with. But in all of that time, you're learning, and you're experiencing. So it's a funny thing. It's like, for me, just being an artist, whatever your genre, whatever your situation is, musician, literature, sculpture, anything you could name, uh, it is its own reward. It is its own reward, the doing of it, sitting down at the instrument and being a channel for this stuff to come through you. It is in a big way its own reward. And you're sort of a success before anybody even hears it, really.
Mm.
Spiritually, you're a success inside your own soul and your own psyche before you release it to the world. So it's an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad that my life unfolded that way. This is what I was attracted to, and this is what I wanted to spend all my physical and mental energy doing.
Yeah, I mean, you've had such an extraordinary career as a musician. After being a founding member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, you found a new group called Tone.
Yeah.
How did fronting your own band allow you to explore yourself musically?
Um, well, that's again, the very situation makes it happen. If you're doing your own band and you're fronting it, you're automatically in a different position of being in an ensemble and one of the sidemen. You know, Bruce. E Street Band was, what was there, 6 of us? Me, Danny, Vinny, Gary, Clarence, and Bruce. That was a sextet. Okay. So in that situation, you know, your space is sort of automatically defined. But then when you're in a situation where, all right, all these compositions, you're playing your own music now, and you're the one who wrote it, you're the one who arranged it, and you're just automatically in front. And again, the situation brings its own energy. You don't have to think too much about it. You just have to show up every day and be ready to engage with the rest of the musicians. And it's almost like it's like an unfolding. It's not like a sort of hip equation that I work out at home before I show up. You have a feeling, especially, oh, what are we doing? We're rehearsing. Okay, I'm leading a band of, like, I think Tone was like myself, Ernest, Gary was trio that expanded, and we had Brenda and Gail, and Patty Scalf as well. We were sometimes a sextet as well, you know, but it's different. Okay. Again, the job is on you. You're showing up, everyone's looking to you for direction. But again, it's not hard. And everyone wakes up with a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of ideas and direction. And it's sort of like it does itself, you know, it's like an unfolding. And all you have to do is show up. Just show up and be open enough and be ready, and being open, have your spirit open to relating to the other people that you're working with.
So how does that kind of collaboration help you individually? And is it difficult when you're in a band with these other musicians to find common ground in the music?
No, that's never difficult. That's not difficult to find common ground within the music. The music is the unifying factor. It really is. And unless there's, I mean, I know of situations where, let's say it's a group of people, any number, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And if there's disagreement about the music itself, I mean, that can be a problem, because if everyone doesn't want to play or be involved in that, then that's a problem. That's a kind of like musically democratic situation. That's different from sort of working for an artist. It's different from being a member of Bruce Springsteen's ensemble, because it's Bruce Springsteen and, you know, it's different from working with Sting, because it's Sting. And then, you know, whether you're a quartet or whatever, your position is automatically fine. It's different from working with Peter Gabriel. That's an artist with an ensemble. It's not a musically democratic situation where everybody has a say in what happens. You know, there are situations like that where we're 4 or 5 people, and it's musically a democracy. We're going to collectively choose the set list, and we're going to collectively work on arrangements. Sometimes that works beautifully, and then sometimes it doesn't. But mostly, I'm going to say mostly 9.9 times out of 10, it works fine. And so the people, because you kind of have a sense of who you're going to work with when all these phone calls are made. You know, nobody just shows up uninvited. Somebody got a phone call to be involved in whatever project. So yeah, mostly it sorts itself out.
So was Tone a musical democracy, or was it like Sancious and
It was that. It wasn't a musical democracy, although, like Bruce, I modeled it after what Bruce did. So Bruce's thing was not a musical democracy, but Bruce, as a musician, as a band leader, and as a human being with ears and who loves music, he was always very open and receptive to an idea that somebody else had. He didn't always have to be the smartest guy in the room, you know? I mean, a lot of times he is, you know, especially on stuff that he wrote and is talking about, but other people have an input and a possibility to things that he maybe physically can't do or wasn't just musically thinking about. So he was always open to any good idea that came down the pike from anybody. And those got absorbed into the music like that. I tried to do it the same way, you know. It's not a musical democracy, but at the same time, you know, if the bass player or the drummer or somebody had some really interesting idea, let's do it. If it works, it's in, it's accepted like that. And all that happens sort of very naturally musically, I have to say. There's not a lot of thinking about that, because all of this stuff is like happening to you like magic,
Mm.
and you're basically responding to a magical invisible sonic situation. That's really what it is. When you're in a room rehearsing with other musicians, it's beyond. It's like a fire of energy, and the more you're together, and physically, the closer you're together. If you put like six people, even forget a six, how about four people, three people in a physical proximity to each other, and it's all working musically, you've created like a fireball of energy. And what will happen is that everybody will start doing things that they never did before.
Mm.
I promise you, it's a known thing amongst people who improvise, especially in the jazz world, and where there's spontaneity and improvisation involved. You will start playing things and doing things that never came out of you before, because it's some kind of spiritual unity that happens that takes everybody, just elevates everyone up to just maybe you were on the ninth floor. Well, now you're on the 10th,
Mm.
that kind of thing.
Now, one of your songs I really love is called "Sound of Love."
Oh,
Um, and yeah, if you don't mind, I'm going to read the lyrics, and then we're ask you a question about it, if you don't mind, so the listeners know the lyrics I'm talking about.
yeah.
The lyrics go that at least my favorite lyrics in the song are: "There's a sound in the air, and you can see it everywhere that you go. Just a spark in the dark to start the fire in your heart of your soul." I love how the
Mhm.
song discusses music as like a tangible thing that can be felt. So is as what you're discussing about music, is that kind of what you're like pointing towards, that music when it works is almost like a tangible thing that you can feel it's there as a real thing?
Yes. Easy answer to all that question is yes, it is a tangible, energetic feeling. And I go with feeling because you can feel it more than you understand it. I think the feelings surpasses intellect,
Mm.
you know, because not everyone is going to be a skilled, talented musician to any degree, whatever, but everyone can feel. If you can experience music, if you can hear it and you can see people doing it, uh, that's it. You're in. You don't need any more connection than that. And once you have that, that's just a starting point for your own experience.
I mean, I really do think that was just a wonderful song. I
Oh,
love the sound. I love the lyrics that you had to it.
I'm back with Bruce doing a project for
Okay.
he has a new album of soul music covers called Only the Strong Survive. Okay. That's what I've been doing with Bruce since November sometime. I worked on one of the songs on the album earlier in the year. But a couple of weeks ago, we did four songs for The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I think they're still posted up there. If you go to Bruce Springsteen / Jimmy Fallon,
Hmm.
there's four songs from his new album. And it's a 19-piece ensemble. He had, I don't know if you've seen it or knew about it, any of it, but I'm sure most of it is still up there on YouTube. But that's not the E Street Band. That's a whole other project.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's not at all E Street Band. And it's a big ensemble. There's like a 7-piece choir, a 5-piece horn section, two keyboard players. I'm only one of two keyboard players, two violin players, drummer, bass, and percussion. And it's a real. I mean, if anyone didn't know about it, I highly, strongly urge you to go to YouTube and type in Bruce Springsteen / Jimmy Fallon, and you'll see 3 or 4 songs up there from that project. Yeah, so that's recent. After Tone broke up, that just was the beginning of mine doing a series of solo records. I think after Tone, I think it was just called David Sancious. I don't think it was David Sancious and Tone, and it was called Just As I Thought. And it had some of the members of Tone and some other session musicians that I brought in to help finish it out. And then I did some solo piano. I did a solo up piano album for electro musician called The Bridge in the early 80s, and a bunch of other stuff. But after that, after Tone was done, that was me doing a series of solo albums, and the most recent of which came out March of 2020, called Eyes Wide Open. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that came out in March of 2020, just around the pandemic kicked in. And I'm coming back to Red Bank early January to do a concert at the Vogel Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, with myself and the percussionist Will Calhoun from Living Color. We have a duo together that we started back in 2018. And we did a brief tour of the Northeast then, and we recorded everything. And eventually we're going to put that out as all of this stuff has just been delayed by the whole COVID, shutdown. And it stopped quite a lot of work, ours included, mine included. And, but we'll be reviving that project. So this thing in Red Bank on the 6th of January at the Vogel Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, will be the first sort of beginning of reviving that whole project.
I me's fantastic. Like I said, it's January 6th, which is cool. It's my birthday, so congrats. So what is it? What does it's called an evening with David Sancious. What does the event mean to you? And how will it reflect upon your amazing career?
Well, what it means to me is one of the first times of playing my own music before an audience since 2019, you know. 2020 was terrible. Again, a lot of us, I lost an entire year's worth of work involved as far as touring and all kinds of stuff. So what this concert means to me is just like, like a renaissance, like a rejuvenation, like a return to, what my work life was like before the pandemic, because we used to do this, quite a lot of as much as we could do live performing. So it's going to be nice just to be with people in an environment and to play with Will again. Will and I have a fantastic rapport, musically and personally and spiritually. So he's one of the most amazing musicians I've ever worked with, but he's also one of the most just spiritually fun and so easy to work with and be with. It's like family. And Will and I have known each other for a lot of years. I'm actually on a couple of Living Color records, playing keyboards. He's been on like 2 or 3 of my albums over the years. He's on the last one, Eyes Wide Open. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna feel like, all right, not that COVID is over, because COVID is not over, but I think that the work life for people has returned enough to where we can do this and sort of try and make a new start of having our work be what it was, but still dealing with the reality of COVID in society.
So when you get an honor like this, does it kind of cause you to reflect back on the career that you've had, or that's something that you've done as you're preparing for it?
It does. It's so funny. I guess I'm at this point in my life. I just turned 69 a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, there's a few things happening that force me to look back um, at my career as it was. I don't think of it as a career, being very sort of lofty about it. It never was a career for me. It's what I'm here to do. It's a calling, and it's sort of not only is it what I'm here to do, it's what I'm best at. I don't do anything better than play music. I do that on a fairly high level and of experience and competence expression. I'm not better at anything else in the world.
Yeah.
Uh, my wife and I, we had a very big property in Woodstock, New York, before we sold our house and moved here. And we had gardens. We had enough space to have some incredible gardens. And for a while, I was a really good gardener. I enjoyed that. I gardened from about, the early 90s until 2019. But still, I don't do anything better than playing music, and I'm not better at anything than playing music. And there's nothing in life that I could do that is more attractive to me than being a musician. And waking up and being involved and working with other people, uh, expressing these ideas, this energy that comes through me. I'm at a good place, because I know there's not as much forward for me as there is behind. And when I do look behind, I feel really good about it. I feel blessed and sometimes amazed that what has happened, you
Mm.
know.
I mean, you like I said, you've had such a great, successful, long career. When you're looking back of where you were and where you are now, having been a front man, been a collaborator, everything else,
Mhm.
musically, what like, have you noticed? Like you're can do things, or you're better at certain things now that you've had this experience getting you there. And what is there more for you that you want to learn about music?
I think I'm just better at all the different elements that there are. I'm a better pianist. I'm a better guitarist. I'm a better arranger. I'm a better singer. Uh, so all those elements, I'm a better improviser. So I think just they all sort of go hand in hand as a package. But I think each of those different layers, I'm quotation marks better at. I've gone deeper into, and that's nice. And that's just like that's a I don't know. That's just a river that doesn't end until your eyes close and don't open again. I don't have a goal. I don't have a goal. Well, here I am. I'm confronted with all this energy and all this situation. So again, I think the whole key to the whole experience is to continue to wake up and show up. Just show up and do your best, you know?
Hmm.
You know what I just watched the other night? My wife and I, we watched Guillermo del Toro's version of Pinocchio.
Oh yes, yes, I know of it.
Yeah, have you seen it?
Not yet. My wife is bothering me about it. I have not gotten to it yet.
Watch it with your wife if you
I
guys
totally
like.
will.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and at the end of it, it's a beautiful message like that of that you just have to be the person that you are, and you
Mm,
have to be accepted for the person that you are, and just keep going in your life and keep doing your best. But it's an amazing piece of animation. It's going to win all kinds of awards. I've never seen anything quite like it. So
mm.
yeah.
That must be a great that throughout your career you're still finding that joy in music. Because you would think, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, that doing something for those years and being that good at it, someone just be like, take it for granted. I'm just fantastic. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, like, is it odd to think that you still have that same kind of get the same enjoyment out of it as you did 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only the same kind of enjoyment. If anything, it's deepened because I'm much more of a musician than I was 20, 30 years ago. I've had much more experience with it, physically, sonically, emotionally, every kind of way. So if anything, the experience increases,
Mm,
as the days go on. And it's just, uh, that's a blessing and a mystery. There's a song Hendrix said, in manic depression.
mm.
And this is way before he actually was had been clinically diagnosed with it when he was still in the army. So he dealt with manic depression in his own way before we had the kind of access and awareness that we have now, but people who are dealing with mental health issues and stuff. But there's a lyric in that song. It says, "Music, sweet music, I wish I could caress and kiss." As if this invisible energy, as if you could actually wrap your hands around it and hold it in your arms, but it's invisible. You can't actually touch it. It's beyond being an object in space and time. It's this outrageous ocean of energy, but that's a beautiful lyric, to feel like, oh, it's so sweet. I wish I could caress and kiss you, you know, but you
So,
can't, you can't.
right. So looking forward, are
Mhm.
there genres of music you're looking to explore? Something that maybe you've never done before that you're now thinking, I need to try this?
Not as a style. I'm not sort of searching around for a new style of music to jump into. just to go deeper into the styles that I'm already uh, been involved in, you know. There's a certain level of jazz playing and composition that I want to go deeper into. And there's certain levels of electronica that I actually want to explore. I've explored that a little bit. I did an album called Cinema years ago, which was a collection of some music I'd done for films. Um, uh, and I probably will do more of that because I think that has a whole genre of music. Electronic is very, very vast, and I can get a long way with it, sort of without the involvement of a lot of other individuals.
Mm.
So if I can get as far as I can on my own, then adding other individuals onto it just makes it even more interesting. But no, basically, I just want to keep going,
Mm.
down the road, you know. But it's a fair enough question. There are other things, but I'm not. There's other genres of things that I sort of hear that, ooh, I never heard that before, and that's interesting. I'll take that into myself, but I'm not sort of looking for a genre to exploit. And
Mm.
there's no one thing that pokes out, oh, I'm going to do a whole album of X,
Mm.
whereas I never did X before. I'm sort of not there because the stuff comes through you, these ideas for songs, these feelings for songs, however it comes as a melody or rhythm, it comes to you. It doesn't come to you because you want it to come. I don't, at least not for me, it doesn't work that way. You're just there. And the minute that you touch the instrument, once you start touching the instrument, it's almost like you've been on a boat on a stream and now you're just pushing you
Mm.
and the stream is taking you. You didn't create the stream. You didn't even create the boat. You're just a consciousness in this vehicle
Mm.
of an energy that, and the only you part of it is pretty small. It's just your memories. We, I is a collection of memory and sensations, you know? So it's like, how much credit do I take for the whole situation, really? I created none of it.
Mm.
I didn't create the vibrations that make up the key of A major. I didn't create, any of it, but all of it is sort of coalescing and presenting itself in real time, very spontaneously. It's
Mm.
crazy. And I would defy anyone, you know, what you have to do is sort of come and be ready to receive. If you sit down and if you try to do something, I have found that it's not that you can't do something. You can sit down. I'm going to write a fugue in the style of, I don't know, Johann Sebastian Bach. Okay. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I don't know. Good luck to you. But you're trying to do something then. And maybe that's not the best example. That's a bit too high level to do that. But whether you're trying to write the next Bach piece or whether you're trying to write a song like Bob Dylan, which is like 4 to 6 chords
Mm.
and some interesting words, it's the trying part. It's the mental effort that gets in your way.
Mm.
Because it becomes a whole other energy then, you know?
Mm.
It's a whole other energy if you're trying to direct this invisible thing somewhere where rather than, okay, I want to write a folk song, but divorce yourself from all the other descriptive things of it. Just okay, I want to for even take away the word folk. I want to write a song and I have a guitar in my hands and I only know 4 chords, maybe 6. Go for it.
Mm.
Go for it. Divorce yourself from the categories and the effort and all that, Just be yourself and let it out. That's really what it is.
Is it hard when things are not coming to you to try not to force it to happen? Like have you learned better to just kind of lay back and go, it'll come when it comes, or are you still part of you that's like, okay, it's been a couple of days or 3 days, 4 days, I need something to happen?
No, and I don't know whether it's because where I am as a person or the fact that I've been doing this for over more than 50 some years, professionally, I don't get hung up on anything for multiple days,
Mm.
you know, if the thing is working, it's working right away, and it's obvious, and there's the energy to take it further is also obvious. Whether I finish it on that day or it's going to take more days to come back, I don't get into a situation where we're stuck on like measure 45 and I don't know what to do. No, that doesn't come like that because it's not mental, you know? Measure 45 will be exactly what it is. And I'll tell you honestly, too, a lot of what happens like this is when I'm composing, I sit there, I turn the thing on, and I just start touching the instrument and things happen, I don't get out of bed and know that when I sit down, I'm going to be playing in the key of D major and this chord, and I don't ever come to it like that, okay? But when you do come to it, just sort of like receive it. And it's like it's telling you, it looks like to the naked eye, it looks like I'm writing a song. But what's really happening on a moment-to-moment basis when you're in a room, the song is writing you. That's what's happening. And you get so much from it. You get so much energy and insight and all this unspeakable stuff. But it looks like to the naked eye because some energy came in and I did this and that, and the thing is recording it, or I took a pen and I wrote it down. It looks like that this collection of memory and sensations since being a baby, this I has actually created something. It's the notation of the thing creating me. And at the end of the song, whenever whether it's your 4-chord folk song or whether it's some like cool opus and that you did, you are a different person.
Yeah, I think
You're
that's
not the same person. You are, if they could measure it even in your DNA and your cell structure, you are not the same person you were before all that energy that we now call a song came coursing through your body and your soul. You're a different person. You'll be different for the rest of your life. It's like that.
Like I said, I think that's fascinating because for me, I'm a writer on the side, and obviously writers, there's the thing about writer's block where you just stare at that blank page and it just gets to you after a while. Yeah, I'm surprised. So for you, there isn't like a musical equivalent of writer's block.
Not really. If I ever felt writer's block would be to mean the mind is kicking in. That's what writer's block would be. And if I'm sitting there going over and over something and trying to get somewhere like a bump in the road, that's mean the mind really wants to start thinking. I would get up and go away then. I'd walk away, I'd get up, I'd go to the beach, I'd come hey honey, let's go snorkeling or something, or let's go have lunch, let's take a walk, let's hang out. I would do that. I would get away from that situation where it's going to force you to start trying and thinking and then come back to it. You don't have to torture yourself like that. It's like I'm here and I want to go further, but it's not working. Every moment where it's not working is in your psyche. It's really not working. You just have to just let it go. It's not going to make it work to have a mental image of it not working. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like spinning your wheels backwards there. So what do? Turn the car off, get out and walk away, and come back to it another time. Come back to it when you feel different, when the environment's different. And that other time you're coming back to it could be the next day, it could be 8 hours later. It could be whatever. Could be whatever you want. That again, no one's making that up. This is the now, the presence of the present moment, and cooperating with all that.
Now, another thing, talking about, you mentioned the Belmar Art Center. One thing that's really cool is that they're donating a piano in the names of you and your mother.
Yes.
So I think it was really cool that you're including your mother in the dedication. So why is that such an important thing to do, is to honor your mother at this moment?
Well, that honoring my mother actually came from the Belmar Arts Council. That's not an idea that came to me, and it's one of the ideas what I was very attractive to me, where I gave the okay to do it. It's a huge honor. And my mother, apart from teaching me to play the piano, which is the foundation, she was my first piano teacher. She didn't teach me exclusively. She taught me for a year when I started playing, I think I was like 5.5 years old. We moved from Asbury Park to Belmar, and there was a piano in the house because the previous owners didn't want to take a piano with them. And my mother could play beautifully, but she hadn't had access to a piano for a long time.
Hmm.
So once we got our stuff in the house, she sat down and started playing. I was fascinated. And that was the start of it. And I sort of trying to copy her. And then she taught me for a year. And then she got me lessons with a virtuoso named James Connell. And I studied with him I stayed with him for about maybe from the age of 6 to 13 or something like that. And he was a very serious, classical pianist. Was brilliant. Um, so not only did she get me started, but she was always very involved in the community, in the education part of the community, not just where she taught. She taught in Neptune Township a lot, but she was also very involved in the Belmar school system, involved in the Head Start program once that got started. I remember her taking me to her teach Head Start because I was too young to stay at home myself, and I was her little assistant. There were kids younger than me, and their mom teaching Head Start, and I had a little chair next to her desk, and I would do anything she needed help with. But that, and a very more important ways, my mother was very involved in helping a lot of people get into college, and yeah, so I think that was offered from the town, and I thought that's beautiful. And there we are. I think we're still in the process of doing a fundraising situation for it can actually be purchased and installed. But it's a real honor. If you do you have the links for that to share with people when we're done?
If you send me the links, I'll attach them to the notes of the YouTube episode.
Yeah, let me just say it to you while here. It's www.belmararts.com, and it's BELARTS.com. It's just one L. www.belmararts.com. And you can see there's several things on the site. You'll see the instrument itself that they want to get, and you'll see the whole story about why they want to do it and where they are with it. And there's a place where you can make a donation of any size, which will be much appreciated. So yeah.
Well, I'll make sure that, like I said, it's on the nose, and hopefully my listeners send in a donation to help out the Belmore Arts Center. They definitely deserve it. So what's next for you?
What's next for me is immediate next is I'm preparing for this concert with Will Calhoun in New Jersey on the 6th of January. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to record that, of course, as well as I record everything I do live, thank God. And I'm hard at work on my next record, which will be number 11. I have the title already. The title is Prisoners of Consciousness. That's actually the title track.
Very cool.
Yeah, and actually, Will is going to be playing drums on that track. And yeah, I've just recently sort of sorted out my new studio space here we moved from one town to another. We live on the island of Kauai, but we used to live in this town called Kapa'a in another house. And then in March, we moved to Wailua, this place called the Wailua Homesteads. It's a gorgeous neighborhood. And I have a whole different studio space. So I'm just on the tail end of tweaking that so I can really get down to work on the next record.
Well, Mr. Sancious, when that record's ready to be promoted, come back on the show and definitely talk about it. I would love to hear it.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sancious. It's been a total honor.
Thank you, man. My pleasure.
Have a great night.
All right, you too.